All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome for our presentation. We're going to be talking about forms for Power Automate. More specifically, we're going to be talking about Infowise Ultimate Forms. And I'm going to help show you how this can be the very best option for you in terms of setting up a front end for the workflows that you're already doing in Power Automate. So we'll do some quick intros, then we'll get right into the presentation. I am Will Cooper, and I'm a SharePoint solutions developer. I do lots of stuff in the SharePoint space and also with related apps and tools. So naturally, that includes Power Automate. And of course, also I do a lot of work with Ultimate Forms. And additionally, I do a YouTube channel. It's called SharePoint Smart. So I hope you'll check that out. I post lots of training videos and information there. And what other thing I do, I have a templates tool called SharePoint Dashboards. And after our main presentation, I'll talk a little bit about that. That's something you could use in addition to other SharePoint tools, including Ultimate Forms. During our session today, we do want your feedback, even though you're on mute. We'd love to hear from you, so please post your comments and questions using the Q&A tool. We may not be able to reply right away, but we will try to get to you before the end of our presentation. And then also additional, you're welcome to sign up for a demo meeting with us at any time through the Infowise site if you'd like to set up a web meeting to discuss your next SharePoint project. Our philosophy at Infowise is about keeping things simple. We try to build our tools in a way where you don't have to be a developer and you don't have to do any programming. And that'll very much come into play during our presentation today. So we'll think about that, having the ability to build solutions without having to do that programming. And we're all about improving. We always want to keep adding new features and functions. So that's a really awesome part about the Ultimate Forms Toolkit. These tools are available in SharePoint, both for SharePoint Online and also for on-premise SharePoint. So regardless of what type of SharePoint you have, you'll be able to take advantage of these tools. I am recording the session. It will be posted on YouTube later today. And additionally, the solution I'm going to show today is available for free as a downloadable template. I'll upload that to the Infowise tool, and you can download that. I'll talk more about that as we go further along. All right, so let's jump in. All right, so I have a diagram here, and I'm wanting to illustrate high level what we're discussing today. So the forms that we want to do, they're going to be using SharePoint, specifically SharePoint list records. And what we want to be able to do is have a front end. So in any kind of solution that we're going to build in SharePoint, naturally there's going to be workflow, and then there's going to be a user interface. And we're going to talk about some different options and how that plays in. This form builder tool works great with Power Automate. In addition, you can get a lot of other automation capabilities with Ultimate Forms. So we can have a lot easier and more comprehensive way to do email notifications. And then we can add additional actions and do some functionality that's otherwise quite difficult in Power Automate, including print templates and then import and export. So it's expanding our capabilities and making things easier for us as well. So this is a diagram of some of the options that are available to us when it comes to doing forms as it relates to Power Automate. We have Microsoft Forms, which is very lightweight, appropriate for surveys or something basic, but really very simplified and limited in terms of being able to build any kind of dynamic functionality. So generally speaking, as it relates to SharePoint solutions, this is too limited, doesn't really give us what we need. And then, of course, in SharePoint, we just have the out-of-the-box form. This is just a simple vertical column that you see of fields whenever you create a SharePoint list with no custom functionality. Again, that's too limited. It doesn't allow us to do any customization or building of a custom form, so that's not great. So that's one end of the spectrum. And then over on the far right here, we've got Power Apps. So On the face of it, as a new Microsoft customer, you might be excited and say, oh, that's great. I've got a form building tool here. But the story that I hear again and again as I talk to all kinds of different colleagues and others working with their Microsoft tools is that they have a very frustrating experience with Power Apps. And as you climb into that, you very quickly realize that this is a developer oriented tool and it incorporates programming in order to build the custom functionality that you want. So if your organization has a dedicated Power Apps developer slash programmer who can devote most or all of their time to working on this, that's going to be appropriate. But for ordinary Microsoft users, SharePoint citizens, if you will, this is quite a struggle to work with and just not a great option to, in a fluid way, build out forms quickly and easily. And that's where Ultimate Forms comes into play, and that's the focus of what I'm speaking on today. This is a toolkit that allows you to build out those forms and connect them with your Power Automate workflows and do that in a way that's easy and you don't have to be a developer. So here's the out-of-the-box SharePoint form. As I say, really very little customization options, so it's just very plain vanilla, not really a custom form at all. There's our Power Apps form. By default, that's the side panel form as well, but this is where you go into the Power Apps platform to develop it. Okay, and here's what we're going to be talking about, which is Ultimate Forms. And we're going to talk about Form Designer and how this links up with your workflows and what we're able to do with that. All right, so here's an example of where we really hit frustration when it comes to Power Apps. On the left, what you see is the code snippet to accomplish a very basic and common requirement. I want to default the current user in to a person field when they make a new request. Really easy concept, something we're likely to want to do all the time. In order to do that in Power Apps, you have to have that crazy nested code that you see right there. Not user-friendly, not at all. On the right, you see the way this is implemented in Ultimate Forms, and it follows that simple logic. We just say, oh, I want a role. I just want it to default to the current user. As you can tell, there's no programming involved. And this example really illustrates what you'll run into again and again in terms of the contrast between Power Apps, which is a developer platform, and a user-friendly platform like Ultimate Forms. So this is showing how coding is all over the place in Power Apps. So I don't think I probably have to do a lot of convincing of most of you that Power Apps is difficult to work with. All right, so let's talk about what is important. Let's take a step back and think about high-level goals. When we want to have a form building platform for our workflows, we need something where we don't have to do all that coding. We need to be able to do the configuration updates easily. Ideally, we want a drag and drop interface. And we want to be able to control the design of our forms without doing coding. We just want to do that through a nice visual interface. At the same time, we need the ability to add rules and make what you call a dynamic form, where I can set conditions so that the form will change depending on the user role or based on a condition like the status. Naturally, as we're talking about today, we're needing this form to trigger Power Automate workflows to make updates for us. As an example, send emails or make updates in other lists, whatever kind of automation it is you want to build. We need a nice, simple, easy connection to Power Automate from our forms. And additional to that, there's other options that we want to do. There's all kinds of automation that's required as a part of business solutions. So printing is one that I mentioned, as well as having the ability to import or export to other systems so you can develop some integration. And then we like to be able to do this directly in SharePoint. So I don't want to have to open up a whole separate heavy platform like Power Apps to do my forms. I just want to do that directly in SharePoint. We need responsive design. So whatever we build should work on mobile devices, and we don't want to have to do extra work in order for that to happen. So we want something that's simple to work with, where you can have many people in your organization be able to build the forms, but also including depth so that we can build out advanced requirements when we need them. All right, so out of the PowerPoint deck. No more of that, I promise you. All right, so here I am. I've got my SharePoint Online site, and we're going to look at things first from a front-end perspective. We're going to see it as the user sees it, and then I'm going to talk to you about how this connects with Power Automate and how we can take advantage of different automation options that are available to us. Okay, so I'm going to create a new project just to illustrate some of the functionality, and then once I finish with the front end, we'll talk about how this integrates with the workflow side of things and how everything works. As you can tell, this is no longer the plain vanilla interface that you might typically see in SharePoint. I've got a form. I've set it up exactly the way that I want. I've got a tabbed interface. So I've got something that looks nice, and I was able to do this without any programming. All right, so this is a list I developed for project tracking, and I'm going to just put in a test project here. Default status is draft. Notice the start date defaulted in to today, and that's fine with me. I'll go ahead and just arbitrarily pick an end date for my project, November 30th, and I'm going to just fill in some names here. All right, so I'm the project manager. I'll make Vladi the team member along with Ethan. Whoops. Okay, so just some regular fields here. Down below, I've got some team updates, and then I've got some history tracking. I'll talk about how that works in a second, some other functions, but I just want to get the ball rolling right now. So in goes our new project, Figs project. My email is going to start dinging in a second because naturally with all of these solutions that you build, you're always going to have email notifications, and that's something I'm going to dive into a little bit, and I'm going to show you how you can manage all those email rules a lot more easily and have better automation. Okay, so there's Figs project down below. I've got some formatting that looks different than your out-of-the-box SharePoint that I want to call out, and some of that is SharePoint Dashboards templates. I lied. I said I wasn't going to talk about that till the end, but later on, after our main presentation, I'll circle back to that. In case you're wondering how some of these things look the way they do, like the profile picture, the date tracking, the edit button, those are things coming from the template. There goes my email notifying the team of the new Figs project. Let me dive in, and I'll demonstrate some of the other functionality going on the form. I've got some tracking going on with this history logging, and I'll show you how that works. So I wanted a way to be able to send updates out to the team on the project and have that tracked directly here in SharePoint in the project record, so that we can keep a track of everything going on. Everyone, please let me know your ability next week. Okay, notice something. Watch the history block down here. As soon as I click that button, it automatically appends into that log. So now, not only do I have a record of where we are currently, I have a record of events taking place, key communication, team updates. I have this log automatically created. I was able to do that through the form tracking automatically. Really handy. All right, so what happens during projects? Well, we have meetings, so we're going to schedule those. So maybe we'd like to plan that out and have those tracked in a central location. And part of what Ultimate Forms provides is parent-child relationships. You can have repeating tables where you're going to have multiple records. So I have a subform, and I will put kickoff meeting, and we'll make that for next week on Monday. Figs project kickoff meeting. Then I paste in my link here. So I'll just dummy something in. Teams meeting link. Okay, and then I can put in some notes. And then the actions are for later when we're going to get that, because actions are going to come out of the meeting. So what I would naturally want to do is have an automatic email that kicks off for that. So I can use this to include links to all the meetings. I'm centralizing all the key information about the project. And then I can drag and drop attachments related to the project in here. That's convenient. And then there's going to be tasks. So we're going to have meetings, and then we're going to get going on the project. And now we're going to define things that need to take place on the project. This is another repeating table. Send out meeting recap. That's going to be assigned to myself. Notice it auto-filled a due date for me. I set a default rule for that. That's for next week. And out to... Okay, so we're just kind of demonstrating some of the custom functionality I have going on. So I've got all the things I want for now. So it's just a general concept. What we're talking about could work for any types of forms, but we needed something to offer some context to understand what we want in terms of our functionality. So this automatically is going to work with Power Automate just by using typical trigger conditions. So there goes my email again. I've got all these emails coming in to notify me about the project. So that's connected to the workflow. All right, so here I am in Power Automate, and in order to connect up to this, all that I need to do is, just do new workflows, and they're the main trigger conditions as it relates to forms are going to be on new, when a new item is added, and then on modify. That's where you're going to build out all those trigger conditions. So let's go ahead and go into one of those. So this is going to be when projects are modified. I don't know why it's taking such a long time to think about it, but it will load here in a second. Let's try it again. There it goes. Okay, so trigger is easy to understand in this case. Whenever a project is modified, it's going to go ahead and do these checks for me. So I can build out all these conditions. Now, one thing that we really care about is changes, because we want to catch after change events. As an example, we want to know when the status changes. So in order to do that, we need to add a block in Power Automate, and that is get changes for an item. And this allows us to do condition checks to look for certain types of updates. So as an example, I have a status column in there, and I want to send out an email when the status gets updated to a new value. I want to notify my team members. So I have a check here. If the column status is changed is equal to true, I just use this Boolean operator. Then I want to send out an email. So this is what I get in Power Automate. And then I can use the good old send an email v2. That's your go-to for sending emails. I can drop in references to my fields, include links to the list, and so on. So this is automatic. I don't have to worry about any compatibility issues or things like that in SharePoint between that and Power Automate. So in other words, it's going to work just in the same familiar way as if you use plain vanilla SharePoint lists. I can detect changes in the form and that type of thing. And then I can do other things like catch when I have new tasks. Naturally, I want to let my team members know when a new task comes in, so that one's going to be triggered on new. So when a new task gets added, or if I have a new meeting added, I'm just going to do similar things. So these on create, on modify triggers are going to be really important. Okay, so this is the same thing. I just provide a link to the task list, and I use this visual editor tool. All right, so let's hop back over to SharePoint right now. All right, so let's look a little bit about what Ultimate Forms is bringing to the table and how was this even created. So when you have the app installed, you can go into this design screen, and there are a whole bunch of options here. We're going to start with the form design part of it, and then we're going to get to the automation, which is the focus of what we're looking at today. One thing I really love with this tool, you can build out logic directly in there. So with workflow, of course, we're triggering updates that are going to happen after a record gets saved, but that's not immediate. It takes as much as 90 seconds or so for those workflows to trigger. So we've got to wait a little bit for those updates to take place. And in certain situations, that doesn't provide a great user experience. If we can move any of the logic directly into the form, that's more ideal because it's immediate. So in Ultimate Forms, we have automation immediate. That's immediate. It's directly inside of the form, and we can do that through buttons. So I have the send team update button, and what this does is trigger appending some information into this history field, which I set read only. And then also I'm updating another email trigger field and clearing out that update. And then I can do also automation that directly calls on actions provided by Ultimate Forms. No coding here. I can just drag and drop fields directly wherever I want them. And all of the updates to the look and feel are just done using these configuration options on the right. So I'm changing the columns. If I want to change the way that things look, I could change the background color of the form to something different. Maybe I like a dark background and I want to change it to blue. Just through a couple clicks, what you see is what you get. I better not do that one. That's hard to see. So I'll switch it back. And I can just, pick a color swatch or pick whatever color I want. But you get the idea. It's really easy to make those adjustments. And then I can also use this tab control to put content on different tabs. This is really useful when you got a lot of information to show. Okay, so the form designer is awesome. It just gives you a fast, fluid way to lay out your forms and make them look exactly how you want to. You can do a multi-column interface and change the look and feel and just get exactly what you want it to look like initially. And then you can add in additional logic to control these through rules. So I can set permissions rules. As an example, this history field, I don't want anybody to edit that. I have my button doing that already. So I can just set a read permission on this field by just clicking this rule and say, I want that read only. And that's all there is to it. So it's easy to work with. All right, let me leave out of there. Let's talk about email notification rules. So I think we can agree in Power Automate, for those of you guys experienced using that, creating email notification rules isn't terribly complicated. It's one of the more straightforward things you might do, but it's not a very efficient user experience. The visual editor tool in Power Automate that you use is pretty basic. To my knowledge and experience, I don't think that's been updated in several years. So I don't know why it hasn't been updated, but if I want to do a nicely formatted email, this isn't bringing very much to the table. Yes, I can make things bold and do a little bit of highlighting, but it's pretty basic. I'm going to show you how in Ultimate Forms it is a lot easier. So under business logic, we have email alerts rules, and I'm going to show you what that looks like, the equivalent in there. So I duplicated the rule that I had for new projects, and in order to set this up, it's very straightforward. I can just come through these tabs and say, I want to do a new email alert, define who I want it to go to. I can even custom configure who it's coming from without a lot of extra configuration. That's difficult in Power Automate. And then I can define my trigger condition. So concept is the same, but the implementation of it is much smoother and more elegant. And then what you'll notice, this email content editor is much more advanced. This is what you might call a rich text editor tool. And it includes more options. It includes the ability to do table layouts and do things like embed other content, images as an example, custom formatting. So that is going to be much more user friendly. Notice also that I don't have to open the workflow tool to do that. I don't have to go into Power Automate to manage my email notifications. So it's possible to use those. But what you're going to find with this tool is that it's so much easier to manage all your email notification rules all in one place. So it's incredibly handy. So this is a part where you can become much more efficient in that automation because email notifications are at the heart of just about any kinds of solutions that you're going to build. Additional to that, we have actions. So what is cool to me, sometimes I'll speak with somebody and they're thinking about Ultimate Forms actions versus Power Automate, and they think of it as an either or scenario. And that's not the case. You can think of this as a combined toolkit. So this expands your abilities in terms of what you're doing. So as a SharePoint solution developer, I want all of the options available to me. And this brings a lot of options to the table that don't otherwise exist with Power Automate, or they're extremely difficult to implement. So as an example, I have a print action that I set up here, and this will automatically generate a PDF that's sent to a local library for me. And I just define my trigger condition in here, and I can initiate that from the form. This would be extremely difficult through Power Automate. So let me show you from a user interface perspective what that is. So let's go to the new Figs project, and I'm going to show you how I actually connected this to a button. So down at the bottom, I've got a blue button here. It says send project PDF to library. This is going to kick off the action that I just demonstrated. It's calling out a print template, which we can define through the Ultimate Forms design screen. It gives me progress updates, and then it'll let me know when it's done. And this just created a PDF for me and automatically dropped it into the local document library. There we go. Project report Figs project created a few seconds ago. What do we get? We get a PDF summary. Now I didn't put very much data in there, so it's relatively short, but it will incorporate all the fields and data from my project report. So it did that for me automatically. I could have that go through email if I wanted to. That's all easily configurable. So that's incredibly handy to be able to build that functionality in. So the main message is when you think about your automation for your projects, more options is definitely be better. So you can combine these two and use them both interchangeably. I can use Power Automate and kick off workflows through that. And then I can also, in addition, manage my email alerts through Ultimate Forms and become a much more efficient. I don't have to use that kludgy interface in Power Automate for the email notifications part. And then I can also additionally add these extra actions. There are a ton of actions available to you through Ultimate Forms, and many, as I said, are things that are not native to Power Automate. So printing's one thing I highlighted, but there are many options. So you can use these in combination to have more tools and options when you're building out your solutions. The print templates are in the area under import and export, and this one is what I would call a simple print template where you just pick the fields. That's all I did. I defined some sections and saved that out, and I called it project report. And I mentioned that a reference to that from workflow. So really straightforward. All right, let me pause for a second. I promised I would look at your questions. I'll try to address some of those. There is a question from James about can you use lookup fields on those parent-child related? You most certainly can. That just creates a separate SharePoint list that's being referenced from the parent form. So you can use, you can use lookup fields interchangeably with that. Okay, there's a question about the look of the picture date setup button. John, I'm going to talk about that in a couple minutes. Those come from the SharePoint Dashboards templates, and that's something you can use in addition to our main solution we're showing, which is through Ultimate Forms. So that's really easy to do and very accessible. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, good questions. I'll keep watching. So if you have other things you're wondering about, post them in the Q&A section. I will be happy to help you out with that. So this will be uploaded later today. We have a solution catalog. When you very first start out with Ultimate Forms, you can sign up for a demo and get our full software for 30 days for free. The thing that's cool about that to me, sometimes when you download demo software, They will give you a very lightweight version of it where you can only use some of the functionality. When you install this and try it out, you'll have everything. The only thing that happens is if you don't buy it, then after 30 days, then you can't use it anymore. But all the things that I'm showing you, you can download later today and try it out for yourself. So we always upload templates from our webinars. That's where you're going to find this after our session today. This is the one from last month, our employee review system, but you can download any of these into your SharePoint environment to test them out, play around with them, and interact with it yourself. So that's a very handy option available to you. All right, so let's talk about some next steps in terms of how you can explore that kind of thing. If you're not an Ultimate Forms customer right now, the most important first step, you really can't get anywhere before you do this, is to try it out for yourself. So if you click the try now for free, you can sign up and do a trial in our tenant. What's better is if you install the trial and make it available inside of your own SharePoint environment. This will need to be done by your SharePoint admin. So go ahead and link up with them if you're not your SharePoint admin and let them know that you want to try out the software. So that's your very first step. If you want to talk to us about what you're building, you want to talk about those Power Automate workflows you're doing, what you're wanting to build, and have a direct conversation, you can sign up for a demo with us. You can sign up for that on our site here, just through the demo sign up form. And then on here, we have lots of resources to help you with training and tutorials. Especially, I recommend our Kickstart training. This would be for the very first time you are using Ultimate Forms. This will walk you through creating your very first form. So we've got a video here, or if you just want to go through the written instructions, you don't have to watch the video. You can just look at the screenshots and follow the steps listed on our site. So a lot of things to help you out when you're very first getting started. So that's our main information as it relates to using Power Automate and having a good forms option, which is Infowise Ultimate Forms. So you can apply this directly in your SharePoint lists. You can download the solution I showed you today and test out all the functionality that I was demonstrating. So keep posting your questions if you have them in the chat. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pivot, and we're going to talk a little bit about SharePoint Dashboards. Okay, so this is a separate tool, and this is specifically providing column and view formatting for SharePoint. This is another thing you can stack into your SharePoint environment to allow you to make great looking SharePoint dashboards. This means formatting your SharePoint list views, formatting your columns, that type of thing. So in our demo today, some of the columns that you saw, those were actually using those formatting templates. So that includes the edit button, the profile picture button, the formatting on the team members, and the dates. Those all come out of this tool. You can sign up for free. Much like Ultimate Forms, you can try this out and see what it does before you make any kind of decision, because that's the best way to figure things out. Try it for yourself. If you come into the site, you can get 21 templates. That's what is available for free. There's lots of really good, useful templates. I use the edit button more than any other template on the site. So you can play around with these, see how they work, and check all that out. And then if you like that, you can, sign up to get the full access. And in the site, there are, as of now, 216 templates, and it lets you do a lot of different kinds of things. You can set up charting through this tool. You can format buttons, do status indicators, create things like Gantt charts, discussion boards, all kinds of things like this. A lot of different possibilities. Navigation's a big one. A lot of times people like to do a nice looking navigation on the homepage, and there are quite a few options to allow you to create a very nice looking navigation in your tenant, whatever style you might like. With SharePoint Dashboards, you do not have to install anything at all. There's no installation. You don't need to get any special approval or anything like that. The tool provides you templates that you simply copy and paste into your own environment. So I'll go to one of those just to demonstrate. So if I go to the buttons, I mentioned the edit buttons one I use a lot. I can just scroll down to that and I'll show you what the interface looks like. I just go through to this screen, and the first thing you see is a preview. It shows you what this creates, so it just helps you understand what it is before you even begin to do anything. And then it shows you what the template's going to produce, and then you can click on the colors. You can, do whatever color scheme you like. Everybody has different tastes for that. And then you're simply going to copy the template. So there'll be a copy button after you sign in. And let me sign in here real quick. There's a basics training, so that's a good place to get started. Get back to my edit button template. And then you just click on copy template. It gives you the instructions. You can even click the button to watch a video. So lots of good stuff to help you out the very first time you use it. And every single template has its own video. All 216 of them. There are actually 216 videos, all with tutorials to show how to use each of the different templates. On the left side, there are instructions giving you specific information on what type of field or view that you use, and special instructions on how to apply that template. So just a lot of different options, and this just allows you to make SharePoint look very nice. So that's mainly what I wanted to tell you about SharePoint Dashboards. If you haven't tried that out, I hope you'll sign up. All you got to do is give your email and name, and you will get a login, and you can use 21 of those templates for free, in addition to all the other awesome cool stuff with Ultimate Forms. Okay, we got some more questions, so I'm going to jump back to those real quick. Will combining actions and action groups cause race or throttling conditions? No, it should not. Naturally, you have to avoid a situation where you could have a recursive loop. I mean, that's mainly a training issue. Of course, you might make that mistake in Power Automate, but no, you shouldn't have any issues on that front. There's a question about actions and Power Automate combine. Will it keep triggering when Infowise makes an update? No, that's not going to be the case. You're not going to have any repeats on that. I use this all the time. I've been doing SharePoint solutions for more than 10 years, and I use Power Automate and Ultimate Forms actions together, and just about every single solution I do. It just depends on what kind of automation I'm doing. I tend to reach for Power Automate when I'm doing something very custom oriented, and I reach for the actions for things that are more clear cut or things that are not part of Power Automate, like printing or import. Good questions. Okay, I am going to stop our recording at this point, but I will keep the session live just to answer questions. So let me do that.